Well, today we're going to have lots of fun because we've traveled to Blanchard, Oklahoma to Sanctuary Water Gardens Incorporated. And we're visiting with Victoria Gonzalez and her daughter Sarah, who are owners and operators. And thank you so much for inviting us over to take a look around, Victoria.
Oh, thank you, Brenda. It's a pleasure that you all are here.
Well, you have just an amazing operation here, and you not only specialize in water garden plants here, but you also do kind of one of your real thrusts is wetland restoration.
Yes, yes. I love wetland restoration. In fact, our plants came for our industry from wetlands, maybe all over the continent, but we have a lot of our native species here.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we really want to tour around today, Victoria. If you could just kind of tell us. And one of the things is you've got a beautiful wetland that you've put in here. Mm-hmm. And how did you get started with this?
Well, actually, Brenda, I got started with this by going in and studying the plants in their native habitats mm-hmm. here in Oklahoma. When I first started this project, very little money, and I really wanted to create out here, and that's one of the gifts I think that God gave me, uh-huh. was to be sure to put beauty in. And a car wreck many years ago has kind of crippled my hands where I used to do artwork. Mm-hmm. So now I create it with plants.
Oh, that's great. Now, to get started on your wetland, what did you have to do to this site? It was already wet, wasn't it?
Right. We had a natural wetland in through here because we're a major runoff to Walnut Creek. Mm-hmm. And this area was always wet. The federal government was kind enough and loved what I was doing, especially our wildlife department. John mm-hmm. T. Aldridge from our U.S. Fish and Wildlife mm-hmm. came down. I asked them if I couldn't get a grant to go ahead and expand this wetland out. Mm-hmm. I saw two purposes in that. One is to try to promote wetland restoration because our plants are so very important to our environment mm-hmm. and purification and in water quality and also in soil erosion. Mm-hmm. erosion. So it's one of these things that I love doing. Mm-hmm. You know, Mother Nature gave us a variety of plants, and each one of these plants serve a purpose to our habitat. Mm-hmm. Great. So they gave me a grant, and obviously I've kind of overmatched what they gave me, mm-hmm. but it's one of these things that we can do this everywhere.
It's really beautiful. Well, maybe we'll take a look and see some of the specific plants that you've used.
Okay, all right, so. I'd love for you to.
Now this is just gorgeous through here, Victoria. This is more of a pond that you've created here?
It's a natural pond, Brenda. Wow. I really like growing the plants in mud. There's no substitute for that. Mm-hmm. So this is my yellow pond.
This is beautiful. What are some of the plants that you've got growing in here? Because I bet the viewers would love to know what they're looking at.
Well, we have a real mixture here. We'll start in on our marginal plants. Mm-hmm. Our plants right here with the little white bloom that's actually fading out is lizard's tail. Mm-hmm. Huh? This is our native plant also, is common arrowhead.
This right here?
Yes, isn't that gorgeous?
Yes.
We have some of our native rushes in here, our scouring rush or mm-hmm. horsetail. Mm-hmm. Tell people not to put that in their pond though, it's poisonous to the koi.
Okay.
And we have Hytonia growing. We've got also arum, Louisiana irises. Mm-hmm. And we can start getting into our water lilies. We have 3 or 4 of really good water lilies blooming in here right now. Mm-hmm. Our closest one right here,
this yellow one right here in the front?
Yes, is Texas Dawn.
That's beautiful.
And then we could go over and get a little bit more into our peach yellow colors, which is Georgia peach. Mm-hmm. And then Joey Tomac over at the opposite end of the pond is now blooming, and it is a Perry Slocum. I like to grow Perry Slocum's water lilies. Mm-hmm.
Now all of these water lilies that you've talked about, these are all winter hardy here in Oklahoma?
Yes, yes. In fact, all of our water lilies are winter hardy until we get into our tropicals. And mm-hmm. the tropical water lilies have a tendency to get the deeper shades of blue and fuchsia mm-hmm. and reds. Mm-hmm. There's soft pastel colors, but my preference is those dark colors.
Yeah, they are pretty.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just looking. There's one beautiful lotus bloom here.
Yes.
right out in the middle. Which one is that?
The lotus that we have growing in our yellow pond is Mrs. Perry Slocum. And of course on Pond Tour, it's one of the lotuses everybody's got to have, and it's the first one we sell out of. I want that one that Victoria's got growing down there by her house.
That's beautiful. Oh, this is a nice plant.
It's goldenrod, and it's native, and it'll be in bloom in about a month. And it's being used in the industry now in regular beds, but it's a moisture-loving plant also.
Wow, that's very versatile because it also will take quite a bit of drought. So it's a good plant. This is the one that we always, every fall, preach that it's not what's making you sneeze. It's the ragweed that's making you sneeze. Now, Victoria, your ponds, you've actually got quite a collection. You've got several ponds right along here, haven't you? And you use these for growing plants. Do you also use these for growing your fish as well?
Yes, we put some of the fish in here, especially we spawn in the greenhouses selectively. And I'll pick the pairs so I could get specific color and pattern. And we bring the eggs out here to the ponds and let the fry go ahead and raise them as naturally as we possibly can.
Now, right here, this is really nice because you've got kind of a combination. I like how you've done this. You've got your really very water-loving plants down in the bottom, but as you look up the bank, you have plant material, but it changes from water-loving plants to plants that actually can take it pretty dry on the side.
Yes, it's mainly so we go from a different environment. Many of the plants, though, will take a lot of moisture, and as you go down the slope of an embankment, of course, you've got plants that like their toes wet. You come on up a little bit. They like moisture, and then we get into those that want it well drained. This
is a really nice way that you've worked them in together here.
Well, this is also where Sarah and I got in here. We had to relocate this creek and divert it away from the house. So we built a series of ponds through here, and we hand laid rock in the middle of the winter as this work was being done, and then came immediately in and started plugging plants in. So it's one of the new techniques that we're doing with soil erosion. Is the plants, the vegetation can now, be used instead of riprap, and obviously make it a lot more beautiful.
Right. So a lot of these native bog plants, wetland plants, are very efficient at preventing erosion.
Right.
That's great. That's really great.
We also like to look at our pollution factors too. Aquatic plants suck up, since they're growing in the water, they take the nutrients out of that water, and it's something that we try to pass on in the industry for more plants in your pond, the prettier your water is going to be.
That's important. I think people don't realize just how much plants act as a natural filtration device, and they really will help keep your pond clear. Now, you've got a nice selection of plants here. Maybe you could tell us what you've got growing, because I love what you've got along here on the side.
Okay, well, we'll get into our water lily over here is Splendidia, and it loves natural ponds. It gets very big, and we have an ornamental pickerel here. We're used to in the industry purple pickerel. Well, this is a giant form, and this giant will get 4 to 5 feet tall.
Wow.
Our new plant over here, which we have seen in our catalogs, is pink pickerel. That's my propagation site where I go in and collect the seed. And we've never done the pink before, so hopefully we're going to be able to do it by seed production instead of by propagation, root division. Most underused plants, as far as I'm concerned in the industry and in wetland technique, is spatterdock. Most of our lakes and reservoirs have got grass carp. And grass carp it's like putting out a salad bar for them when we try to put these plants in. But carp do not like spatterdock. Our hatchery, our federal hatchery down in Tishomingo, actually uses this plant to spawn in. So it provides shade, a habitat for the fish to get under. It provides the fry to be able to hide from predators. Herons cannot walk through it. You know, they don't particularly like to stand. They want to sit right there in open water and pick off their prey. And it's a underused plant. The foliage is magnificent.
That's a really nice big round leaf on that. Now the other thing that you were telling me is because the carp don't eat it, if you had koi, the koi don't eat this.
Right.
So that's a good choice if
Right.
you need some plants.
Koi or carp.
Yep.
So, you know, and they do not like to eat these plants. They don't like to eat the giant Sagittarius, mainly because of the rhizome is very, very thick. And they may try to pick off new shoots off of there, but they don't play around with that plant. That, by the way, all the plants in here are all winter hardy.
Great.
We have a great selection.
Now Victoria, a lot of times when people are starting to build a water garden, the recommendation is that they put it in a full sun area.
Yes.
And everybody doesn't necessarily have full sun in their yard. Can they still put in a water garden?
Oh yes, they can. They have to take special measurements for that though. One of them is having a nursery person provide them with the information that they need, what plants will grow in total shade. And that's one of the recommendations. Water lilies are still very difficult, but if you have even a shaded area like this one, there's certain plants and certain water lilies that will really grow well for them.
Okay. Now right in here, and this is a shady area, what are some of the plants that work well here that we've got growing right here?
Well, we've got the lizard tail, which is also a native plant, and we have the variegated water celeries, which is more in the ornamental part, but we do have the regular water celery, which is native also to our state. I found that growing in several areas. You can see how that lizard's tail comes in and just covers that whole area, and in spring this whole area smells like vanilla beans.
Oh wow.
So it's very, very fragrant. And of course I always have already recommended that we don't put horsetail into the pond, but we can put it on as a bog plant back behind our water gardening for accent. Of course in shade, then naturalizing is hostas, and ground covers. Most of our ground covers really will take either shade or full sun.
Great. Victoria, you have a lot of your plants growing in ponds and everything, but you also have things in the greenhouse. How do you get them from the pond to the greenhouse?
Well, Brenda, we go in and we take small plugs from our environment and from our ponds and from our wetland areas, and we put them into 4-inch. We cut them all up, we do root divisions, and we do it kind of the old-fashioned way. I found that Mother Earth is the best for our plants that make them look the prettiest.
Now, and you never would harvest all of all of one plant. You just take small divisions from it.
No, we do the divisions, and especially on those that are very difficult to grow by seed. And we get those ready in the 4-inch, and then we transplant them into 1 gallon. Sometimes if I don't have enough of one species, we'll take it, grow it out, and then literally get into the process of doing small root divisions, putting them in 2-inch pots, getting that nice and full, doing divisions again. And that's how we keep up with the market.
Well, could we see some of the plants that you grow here?
Oh, I'd love for you to.
Great. Now this is a nice selection of plants here. Is this kind of like your holding area?
Yes, this is where we start getting ready to go out to the nurseries. We get them a little bit acclimated out here instead of being grown in the greenhouse. And we pull our plants from here. It's a major operation when we're getting ready to take an order in.
Oh yeah.
These plants are heavy, and we're always wet and we get muddy. It's not a glamorous job, but I love it.
That's great. Now, this is a really good area just to see some of the different plants. What is this one right here? It's got a beautiful bloom on it.
It's water poppy, and it's taken me 2 years to really get this plant up and going where we could propagate it. What's so lovely about the plant itself is that it produces a runner. It acts as shade also because it just basically grows like a water lily. The only difference is that this plant does not like to be submerged in a whole bunch of water.
Okay, so what level would you grow this in?
I'd go ahead and keep 2 or 3 inches of water over the top. And it's one of those plants that when you prune it for fall, then you just prune all the pads off and lay it down on the bottom. That's one of the mistakes that water gardeners make all the time, is that they sink those water lilies and their marginal plants way too deep. And water lilies really should have no more than 6 to 8 inches over the top. If it looks like the plant's burning, then lower it down some. But the purpose of that is to provide instant coverage. The water lily pad loves to come in and give an indicator. The first pads that we see in the springtime is letting that plant know it's time to start growing, not only from the light that we get, but the water temperature.
Oh, okay.
So they're very, very dependent. So if we want good coverage, we bring those plants up closer to the surface.
Okay. So they get started in the spring a little bit earlier that way.
Yes.
So, now some of the other plants, I noticed we've got another one right here that's blooming. This is a really pretty one.
Yes.
Right here.
This is Aztec arrowhead or Japanese arrowhead. Really, in the industry, we get a lot of different names from a lot of different nurseries. So, but this is a beautiful, beautiful flower on it. And actually, we like to think of that as a Christ flower also.
Oh, that's one that has a
Kind
story.
of like the dogwood.
That's pretty. Now this is just beautiful. It's a brilliant scarlet.
Yes, this is native to the United States. It's hard to find it here in Oklahoma. I have seen it growing, and this is Lobelia cardinalis. It likes water, but it does not like to be way, way submerged deep.
So again, about 2 inches or so
Right.
would be good for this.
Perfect for a bog garden, you know, when it's not actually totally saturated.
Now, also here, these look like cattails, but they're a lot smaller.
Yes, this is a little miniature cattail, and this has been a hot little item for us, especially for the container gardener. It doesn't get too tall and obnoxious. It does put on a little tiny tail, and it's a nice little plant. And cattails are underused. They're wonderful in filtration.
I know a lot of times people are afraid to put cattails in because they'll take over their water garden.
Yes, yes, but if we stick with our miniature and dwarf varieties, then it's a very, very good choice.
Oh, great. Victoria, we really appreciate this tour. And if people want to come visit you, how do they find you?
Well, we try to stay kind of flexible on the weekends. It's very difficult for us to tour because we are very busy with the wholesale industry. We love for them to come, especially on Fridays and Saturdays. We're open from Wednesday until Saturday until fall. And we'll be getting ready for the Koi Show, which is the first weekend of September. So they can easily catch us in between Norman and Chickasha.
All right, here
off of Highway 62.
Great. And the other thing is you're getting ready to have a big sale here of both your plants and your koi.
Yes.
When is that?
Our sale is going to be on August the 12th on Saturday. And part of that is, as I don on my hat, many of my water gardeners know that I'm a liver transplant patient. And for me to give something back to Baptist Hospital, is part of the proceeds for that is going to go for the Naughty Zooty Transplant Institute.
Well, I think that's a great idea.
Oh, it's a wonderful idea.
We just really appreciate the tour, Victoria.
Oh, Brenda, thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.